No, yeah. Sunday evening, and I'm sitting here with Johan Erasmus, and we're going to talk. And he sent me a little list. I don't know how far we're going to get through the list. He's talking about Rees-Mogg, Afrikaans, English, Deep State, Arms Corps, NPA, SARS, SARS, fracking RSA, Musk, New World Order, and CO2. COT. Johan, welcome on the channel and thank you very much for your time. The floor is yours.
Glenn, thanks. I'll promise to give the floor back when I'm finished.
Okay.
Just a couple of things. I came up with something very interesting. Listen to what it says. Government are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. This comes from the Declaration of Independence in America. Then William Penn says the following: men must be governed by God or they will be ruled by tyrants. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Every day around us. Now, why I mentioned Jacob Rees-Mogg? He's a Tory, Conservative Party politician, rich guy, and he was quoted as saying the following: Glasgow, due to the poverty experience there in the 19th century, they were having 21 deaths per 1,000 inhabitants, and he compared it to the concentration camps in South Africa. And his view was the concentration camps also was 21 per 1,000. Now listen, the actual fact of the concentration camps was 344 deaths per 1,000. In other words, 34.4% of the people in the concentration camps died. 28,000 white women and children and older men died because of illness and malnourishment. But what people don't know is, and Professor Franz Johann Pretorius exposed this in the late 90s, the black concentration camps. There were 66 concentration camps in Transvaal, run by the British for blacks, who lost 20,000 black people. 28,000 plus 20,000. Now, Marx says they were not like the Nazis with the Holocaust, Bergen-Belsen, Birkenau, Auschwitz. I was at Dachau. I can attest, when I came out after a tour there, I was hyper-aggressive. And believe me, you couldn't come within me, close to me, to within 10 meters. I was really, really highly aggressive. But die Peter does it my. He says, but they were not like the Nazis. He's wrong. They had the same result. They were killing the people. That's what the Holocaust was about. While the Nazi view was to wipe out not only the Jews, but people that they didn't like. The British in the concentration camps killed off people left, right, and center. Now, Chris Ash writes a book, Kruger, Commandos, and Kak. That is the title of this book. And he also exposes a lot of issues around the concentration camps and that time, which is not in the public domain because people don't read, and the historians they don't attend to these matters. Now, this is the situation of Rees-Mogg and the view of the British. And I also just read an article that Britain is about to be sued for $270 billion at the next Commonwealth meeting for slavery in the 17th and the 18th century. Now, what about what happened in South Africa, black and white? Where's the glorious ANC which stems from Britain? What are they doing to get reparations for the people in South Africa, black and white? Remember, in Namibia, the Germans paid reparations for what they did during the German occupation. Of course, the Namibians want more, but there was reparations paid. I have never seen anything in South Africa. Now, let's go a bit further. I mentioned Afrikaans English. During my time in Ovamboland, especially in the late 70s, oh, well, I'll be back now. Well, when I got into Ovamboland, it was very interesting. Before the South Africans got into Ovamboland, it had a 2% negative growth rate. After South Africa got there in the late 70s, The population grew by 7% per annum due to better hospitalization and medical care. It's all very good. Where's the jobs, which is still a problem until today. And during my time, there was a policy. 1 month, everything had to be written in Afrikaans. And in that month, SPOOR was threatening to run us apart, to take over. All hell was breaking loose. The next month was an English month. Everything had to be written in English to Oshakati head office. Quiet. Nothing happened because these guys couldn't write in English. Remember, they went to school, they wrote matric, but they couldn't speak English. In Gabon, I found a couple of South Africans on a pineapple farm, which was run in the 80s by our Foreign Affairs and Department of Agriculture with Hendrik Skuman. They had fake British passports, but the hell they couldn't speak English. Die donder weet hulle kon nie Engels praat nie. I mean, what a farce. You want to say you're British, but you can't even speak the language? Any case, and why I'm saying this, it seems to me when I looked at the comments, there's various people who don't understand English. The reason I'm speaking English is to reach a much wider audience. Whether I'm a Boer or an Afrikaner or whatever, I am part of a cultural group. And that cultural group can only exist if we are clever and we can interact and interface with the world around us and further. And that is why we use English. But the big thing is there are indeed some people who don't understand. Like I said about Elon Musk, SARS had issued a warrant of arrest for him for income tax on monies he earned abroad. I don't know if it had been withdrawn at this stage or whatever the case might be. While Mark Shuttleworth was not in the same situation, he had to pay taxes on all the money that he wanted to take abroad. This is all on how you structure things. Now, Shuttleworth is currently on the Isle of Principe at Sao Tome and Principe, where he, at his cost, extended the landing strip, and he's built a very, very high-class resort there. Only the top people in the world can afford to go and stay there. So good luck to him. But I mean, the whole thing is for people to open their mouth and make comments. I've only got one stock answer, and you, Colleen, have got the same reply. We don't have to repeat it. But the main thing is when we look at the deep state, I equate these people to deep state being involved. They are everywhere. And the simple reason is when we, for instance, investigated in the 2000s the Ratel exports with the first consult appointed by Janri Masalela, who was later killed in near Witbank on instruction of the French. But the main thing is that there were people from the Scorpios involved, which were later disbanded. And those people said to me, you couldn't believe how they had been victimized by people from the intelligence services thereafter, and specifically white people. And this goes back to the issue that in 1992, when the ANC was unbanned, the whole reason of existence of the current information services fell apart because they were all so focused on the ANC that when the ANC fell away, there was nothing else. Dion Loots told me that's why in 1992 they started with crime intelligence to look at the far right wingers. Now, Dion Loots eventually had a lot to say about the whole Boeremag trial, etc., but that's another issue for another day. The whole thing is that the deep state is the whole time involved, and it is our own bloody people. That is what is really getting me, is coming up my nostrils. I mean, Armscore, the whole thing is the one guy I've always targeted since way back, Johan Grobler, or what, him and Dawie Griesel. What tribe are they? Grobler is still today the CFO at Armscore. 12 years later. There are so many things going on. But the whole thing is, nothing is what it seems. People, the common people in this country are basically but cannon fodder. Whether they're white, whether they're black, they all are but cannon fodder for the so-called elites, and which is basically a criminal elite. Because not many of them have really made their money on an honest fashion, most on a dishonest fashion. The NPA, Shamila Batoy, makes a lot of noise about state capture, prosecutions, etc. But she granted Angelo Grisi and his co the five people with him who had been charged indemnity. Under influence from Cyril Ramaphosa, she was forced to rescind it and have them arrested. And I've said this before, the upshot therefore was that 22 people who made affidavits to the Zondo Commission withdrew it because they were implicating themselves. And this is how the world goes. I mean, Cyril Ramaphosa stands in America and he says there's no farm murders. Cyril Ramaphosa should long ago have been charged for high treason, but we hear nothing. Helen Zille is very quiet. Now she wants to threaten them about city of Tshwane. Why? The big thing is, under Panjasa Lesufi, when Tshwane was under administration, 2 billion rand went missing. I mean, under Sputla Ramakopa, who's now Gosiente, what the hell? Hundreds of millions of rands went missing. And what is the DA doing about it? Nothing. Nothing. And why? What have the DA got to hide? When you deal in this situation, it's not a tea party.
Can I ask you something?
You're welcome.
The DA.
Yes.
Don't you think that the DA is just following the instructions from their masters?
Indeed. Indeed. I mean, why is Helen Zille representing the New World Order? The New World Order is headquartered in Switzerland, and they are enjoying diplomatic immunity. Ronald Lamola and Helen Zille are the two New World Order ambassadors for South Africa. Ronald Lamola is earmarked as a future president for South Africa. This is the same Ronald Lamola, and this I got from the ANC's NEC, has been paid 93 million rand in excess at the Road Accident Fund. Nobody does anything. Why? Why? I mean, people are saying, yeah, but we're sick and tired. So what if you're sick and tired? You're not sick enough yet. Stand up and do something. I mean, we all live in cultural groups, whether we would like to know it or not. We're interfacing with the world around us. If you don't have respect for the people around you, white or black, why do you think they should have to respect you? But the big thing is when you come to the New World Order, and I've said this before, where's the Oppenheimers? Where's Bobby Gotzel? We don't hear them. I mean, Mary Slack gave the DA 35 million rand for the election. But isn't it time that they stood up and took a leadership role for the position they have in the society? Johan Rupert sitting in France, suffering with health, and his children hating they don't want to come back. Why don't they stand up and do something? The New World Order.
Johan,
yeah.
But something that really makes me angry is the simple fact that these politicians, they are just following instructions from their masters. They don't give a shit about us, the people, who they are supposed to serve. They take instructions and that's all. And as long as they execute their instructions, they're safe.
Correct. Because the main thing is, I don't know, I mean, Alexander the Great set an example. You can't take it with you when you're dead. What don't these people understand? I mean, during COVID, we heard nothing from Barnabas Lekanyane from the ZCC. According to the ANC, he was paid 10 million rand every quarter, every 3 months to keep quiet. All the shop stewards were bought off to keep quiet. I mean, we know at this stage there's now been so much international exposure about COVID and the vaccinations. That was all a money-making exercise stemming from Pfizer. And it all goes back to the American DOD. And it all goes back to the New World Order. Bill Gates involved everywhere. I mean, Bill Gates comes to South Africa to play in a tennis match in Sandton. I mean, can he even play bowls? You understand? So, I mean, we are fed so much bullshit in this life and we eat it up with a smile. I mean, the journalists, per se, They are, I mean, when I talk about that pedophile, Jacques Poe, with his contacts in the intelligence service, who wrote President's Men because he was given information from inside the intelligence service. So Yusuf Jafta, previous Director General of Intelligence Service, testified at the Zondo Commission about the intelligence service, but only from his viewpoint. Louisa Jafta is implicated in 2008 when a company on behalf of the intelligence service in South Africa supplied interception equipment to the DRC, to Joseph Kabila, so that he could assassinate 1,200 people in order to win the next election. It was in contravention of UN sanctions, and therefore it's a crime against humanity. So Thabo Mbeki must take responsibility because it was on his watch as president. But nothing happens. And interesting enough, these names I'm mentioning now, these officials, they've been trying to steal hundreds of millions of rand. And they have the friendly judges in Johannesburg who goes on and says, the case is secret. My lord, there's nothing secret if it comes to fraud. And this is what is happening. And now you must go through court. When you talk about democracy is supposed to be the majority rule. But when the majority is ruled by criminals, how the hell are you going to counter it? You know, Joan Fubs and Barbara Hogan they're not Mickey Mouse women. They are strong women in the ANC in the struggle. But seems like nobody thought about the issue. What do you do in a democracy when the majority, via various institutions, make a decision which goes against the common law, goes against common order, go against common sense? Now you must go to the Constitutional Court, and I don't know how many years later. I mean, I've said it so many times. Thabo Mbeki must be charged for crimes against humanity. Thabo Mbeki must be charged for high treason on the antiretrovirals. But the main thing is, everywhere we turn, there is this white liberals behind everything, and they have this white Afrikaner sidekicks that's running with them. That is the most interesting situation. I mean, Rolf Meyer is sideways up their asses. Rolf Meyer in 1992 was, as Deputy Minister Defense, in charge of an operation called Ops Rodeo, whereby they spun Denel out of Armscor as a separate company. After 1994, we find out later on that Rolf Meyer becomes a director in Denel. He stays for 2 terms, and when his terms are finished, he tries to go for a 3rd term, and the ANC accommodates him in another field. Like, for instance, we have now the situation with the fracking in the Karoo. Gwedi Mantashe on Brolpara, the gas fields offshore of Mossel Bay, wanted too much money from the international oil companies. This is what I'm saying. He wanted too much money, not for the country, for him and for Cyril Ramaphosa, because that's how they've been rolling. Now they're starting with this issue about the fracking in the Karoo. Fracking gefok, man. Also in Middelburg, Mpumalanga, you're having the same situation. They're looking for gas and oil. What do they care? They don't care a damn about the country. It's only about their pockets and the 20,000 rand an hour prostitutes. That is literally what it's all about. And what happens? Everybody must go and fight, and civil society must fight again. And every time they're looking how to get past civil society. I've mentioned to you before how the coal reserves in this country are being depleted. There's nothing to be left for future generations. And it goes back to one thing. We have an opposition that is utterly useless except for a few people. And those few people are being snowed under by making things happen. For instance, Ian Cameron, it's a very good thing that he's got Action SA. He's his own organization. He doesn't need the DA for a salary. He can do his own thing. But for how long is he going to be able to effect a change in his environment before Mrs. Zille intervenes? And by the way, where did she get the money to build a 14-room bedroom palace in Keurboomsrivier, I'm told, there in the Southern Cape? So there's many things that's happening that people don't know what's going on. And the people, they don't listen, they don't understand, they don't want to understand. The
Sure.
white people think in terms of being white. Your blood is as red as the blood from a black man. We all bleed red. Black people have the same fears and concerns. I've looked at the situation, interesting enough, this week in Soweto with the children dying from food poisoning. Yesterday, I got this photo of a Somali walking the streets in Soweto with a PK machine gun with belted
Yeah,
ammunition.
I saw that photograph.
Yeah. And the Somalis will take no nonsense, because also in Pretoria West, the Somalis were intimidated by the black officials from the Tshwane Metro. And they just went to them and they said to them, they lifted that big coats they wear, and they lifted and said to them, "You see what I carry underneath here? Be careful. Back off. Leave us in peace. Go
Let
do
me
your
tell you
part."
this. Let
Yeah.
me tell you this, Johan. One night, I'm sitting in a chat on Telegram, and there's Kenyan guys there, Nigerians, and Somalians. And the guy from Nigeria, the one guy from Nigeria, he says, the dumbest blacks in the world lives in South Africa. And the guy from Somalia says, we're going to take that country from them. We're going to take that country from them. Now, I didn't interject or I didn't make a noise. I was just observing. And I listened to the to and fro's and I thought to myself, these black people in South Africa has got no fucking clue what's heading their way. They don't understand what the hell is coming their way. Then about 2 weeks after that, I saw an article that in Kenya, the Kenyan police grabbed a group of Somalians, 64 of them. They were in 2 guest houses and they were on their way to South Africa. But these guys are terrorists. The Kenyans arrested them. And the one Somalian said, well, fortunately, the first 2 squads got through. Now, all of those guys they come to South Africa. And then I see that image yesterday of that Somalian walking with that big-ass machine gun openly in the streets. And I thought to myself, what the fuck is that?
And
How is
that
that
machine
possible,
gun,
Johan?
that machine gun fires a 7.62 by 54R round. It's bigger than a 7.62 51 NATO. That round goes through a Casper. Okay, Casper is not armored against. It's only armored against small caliber weapons. But that machine gun round goes through a Casper, and it's been proven before. So even the police or the defense force, if they move in, they are not safe at all. But this goes back to, we are coming to this time of the year when the drugs are starting to flood into the country, because the monsoon winds from the Arabian Peninsula are blowing southwards, and the dhows are coming down the east coast of Africa. So they don't use the engines to come down, they use the engines to go back. They beach from northern Natal right down to nearly Cape Town along the coast and offload drugs, up to 500 kilos at a time. Wilderness, nice now. And who picks it up? Who picks it up? A lot of Afrikaans people's names have been mentioned and are involved, and nobody is doing anything about it. You know, the Civil Cooperation Bureau, one cell was exposed. Now, there were various recce's involved. They said to me, the problem there was they were being run by policemen. The policemen had no bloody idea how to run these operations. But every policeman was in a senior position, had a suitcase full of money and 4 cousins in various stages of pregnancy. Sy niggies wat pregnant is, né? So the situation is, Professor Eric Louw in KwaZulu-Natal says, yeah, but FW de Klerk hated the safety and security establishment to such an extent, and this is what I'm saying, because I know this from another source, that de Klerk placed an embargo on any intelligence report coming into his office. Now, de Klerk is also the guy on whose watch the CCB came into being. Now, remember, whilst one cell was exposed I've been told there were 6 cells in actual fact. After 1 cell had been exposed, the other 5 morphed back into the civil service. And most of them who know and who knew firsthand how the criminals operated have now gone to the side of the criminals for one simple reason. And they say this to me, because there's nobody to help us. We've got to help ourselves, and we've got to build our own future. So when you have the situation of free for all, the situation of warlords in South Africa is not far off. But let me just go back to Panjaa Salusufi. Panjaa Salusufi, on the 2 billion rand missing in Tshwane, which of course the DA has done nothing about, has also been implicated now by AfriForum on covering up fraud and corruption. But he must also come and answer, along with Cyril Ramaphosa, what happened at the Montrose City project in Randfontein of 11 billion, which is standing still, and the money went missing. It is so easy. The money just goes missing. Nobody does anything. Nobody says anything. And this is where we need to reevaluate. What are we doing for the future? We are 2 million whites, there's 60 million blacks, but we are all South Africans. We as South Africans, we have to do something. I mean, BE is pushed by Cyril Ramaphosa with his cadre deployment. Doesn't matter how incompetent they are, as long as they are loyal to the central organization, and it's all about stealing. And everywhere I found something about fraud and corruption, it gets exposed if Cyril Ramaphosa is not involved. Listen what I'm saying. If Cyril Ramaphosa is not involved, Praza, Cyril Ramaphosa was not involved. Those trains are running in South Africa. So, wat the moer nou?
Wel, Johan, dis 'n goeie plek om te stop. Ek kan nou vir jou 'n ander ding vra. En dis nou sommer net ons shoot bietjie breeze. Jy weet, oor 2 weke is die groot BRICS-vergadering in Kazan.
Ja.
En ons hier in Suid-Afrika het ons mos hierdie regering van nasionale verleentheid. Nou wat ek graag wil weet, gaan daar van die DA se mense in die Suid-Afrikaanse afvaardiging wees wat Kazan toe gaan? En as dit so is, hoe gaan hulle nou vir die Russe in die oë kyk, want hulle is die fokkers wat laas jaar vir Putin wou arresteer?
Jy weet, as jy kyk na die hele situasie, daar was nou nie lank terug nie, 'n BRICS-vergadering vir local government.
Ja.
Waar was die DA? Onthou, regering bestaan nie net uit die regering van die regerende party nie, die opposisie is deel daarvan. Hulle is op 'n plaaslike regeringsvlak.
Ja.
Tshwane hierdie hoogsbetaalde munisipale amptenare wat die minste doen. En onthou, dis nie te sê dat daar nie goeie mense is nie, maar die probleem is die goeie mense, swart en wit, word gemarginaliseer. En hulle word gemarginaliseer eers deur 'n lot wites. En dan, want die wites kruip gat by 'n lot swarte base. En dit is waaroor dit gaan. Want die punt is, I can point out to you how many of the ANCs that's in so-called senior positions were put there by white people. They came from menial jobs. Paul Mashatile was a gardener. He was a gardener out of Alexandra. Him and Patrick Banda, they were working in people's gardens. Guess what? I was also a gardener. That is how I started to make money. But that's another story. But the main thing is, nothing is what it seems. Niks is soos dit lyk nie. Nou kan jy hom afsit, dan kyk jy verder gesels.
Lekker aand, dankie Johan. En
Okay.
en waardeer jou tyd, hoor. Jy moet net kyk, jy gaan nou weer 'n intro